Hello, my name is Marilyn Moore. I am the founder of More Compliance Solutions, and this platform is where we come and meet every week and pour us a cup of tea and talk about early childhood education and the systems that help these programs thrive. Every week, we'll meet here and we'll have an honest conversation about childcare leadership. We'll talk about compliance, we'll talk about operations, and we'll talk about the day-to-day needs to help directors stop putting out fires every day and assist them with doing what they came into this profession to do. So with that being said, let's get into today's topic. So I want to ask you a question. If I was to ask you what is costing your center the most money, what would your answer be? Most directors would immediately say payroll. Instantly. And payroll is expensive. I get that. I'm not dismissing that. But honestly, I don't believe that payroll is the biggest expense. I believe that the biggest expense is disorganization. And the sad part about that is that particular expense rarely shows up on your financial reports. You will never see disorganization on your expense sheet. Now, I want you to take a moment and think about yesterday, or whatever your last day of service was. How many times did someone stop you and interrupt the workday to ask you a question? I don't care if it was about a form or an attendance sheet, a parent phone number, or a child's emergency contact. How many times did your day get interrupted to answer a question like, where do I put this? Or who signs this? Where is the binder? Did anyone call this parent about X, Y, and Z? And at first, none of these interruptions feel expensive. You're like, it's just a few minutes, let me answer the question and get on with my day. But a few minutes, several times a day, every day, adds up. Those minutes repeat dozens and dozens of times over and again, and it becomes hours. And those hours turn into payroll. And not only does that put stress on your payroll, but it puts stress on your physical being too, because you steady stopping doing what you're doing to answer questions and to put out this fire and to put out that fire that you never truly call up. That leads to stress, that leads to burnout, and ultimately frustration. There's so many daycare providers who are just ready to throw in the towel on their center, and they have great programs, but not great systems. And it's not because people don't care. It's not because your staff does not care. It's not even because you don't care most times. Only you know your passion. But what it is because your systems are non-existent. You need to most people don't run their childcare programs like a person would run a business. And that's where I come in. That leads me to something that I learned early on in my childcare career. I used to think that in order to be a good leader that I had to have all the answers, that I had to know everything, that if people had questions, that I would be the one they can come to get the answers. And I answered those questions again and again and again. And they kept coming, and I kept answering. And doing that made me feel helpful. I enjoyed helping. I enjoyed being the person with all the answers. But it's like one day, I just thought, I'm like, if they keep coming to me with the same questions every day, am I really helping them? Or am I building dependency? And that's what led me to come up with director dependency, but we'll get into that later. The point is that I was building dependency. And that dependency was draining and exhausting for everyone. It was exhausting for me as the director to break what I'm doing, to constantly answer questions over and over again. And it was exhausting for my staff to not have the proper systems in order to be able to just go to it and look it up in whatever binder, book, or protocol that we have in place. That was non-existent in the center that I was directing. So that made me go within and start saying, how can I become a better director? What can I do to provide a better service to my staff? And that's what brought me here. So what I learned from that experience is the goal is not for the director to be the answer to every question. The goal is to build and create a system that makes finding the answer to the questions easy. So, what does that look like? It starts with asking different questions. Instead of asking, why does my teachers keep asking the same thing over and over again? Ask what system is missing. Instead of asking, why can't anyone remember this? I said it already. Ask, is it written down anywhere? Instead of assuming that people need continuous reminders, let's try asking questions like, do they have the tools that they need to succeed independently? Because that matters. When your systems improve, your interruptions decrease. Your staff become more confident. They can do their job. They know where to go look for the answers. And your classrooms are more consistent. And your leadership becomes more sustainable. You're less drained. When you have your systems in order, that works better for you as the director. That works better for your staff. It puts them in a better place to teach and instruct their classroom and to not, quite frankly, interrupt you all day. And then it's better for your parents and your students because, quite frankly, a center that is organized and well run and has great systems, has great parent communication, has great classroom flow. The teachers know what to do in case of XYZ without disturbing the admin. So before we wrap up today, though, I do want to leave you with a little something to sip on. You know, tea does not become stronger because we rush it. It becomes stronger because we give it time to steep. And I believe leadership should work the same way. See, the strongest childcare systems aren't built over a weekend. They're just not. They're built one thoughtful system, one intentional decision, and one consistent habit at a time. That's all it takes. Intention. And that's exactly what the MORE method is about. We believe that great childcare programs are not built because one extraordinary employee carries everything on their shoulders. They're built because intentional systems allow ordinary people to do extraordinary work. And that's because strong systems create a strong staff. And a strong staff creates the conditions for consistent care. And consistent care changes the lives and the experience of how parents and children experience your program. And trust me, your program does have the ability to change children's lives. So here's my question for you. What's one thing that you feel like your team wastes your time asking questions about every single week? I would love to hear it in the comments. Who knows? Your answer may inspire the next episode of Steeped in Systems. Remember, I'm Marilyn Moore. Thanks for spending some time and talking with me today, and I'll see you next week. And until next time, keep building stronger systems.